The revelations of the past few days have cast an entirely new light on the FBI, the Justice Department, Fusion GPS, the Clinton campaign, and the Dossier. Entirely new perspective. Rather than the conventional wisdom, which was that these guys wrote the Dossier and they brought it to the FBI, which scrutinized it and tried to verify it or point up its shortcomings, is totally untrue. The fact of the matter is that starting before 2010, there was a close grouping of people who included the top leadership of DOJ, the FBI, the authors of the Dossier, and later they brought in their buddies in the Clinton campaign into it. And since before 2010, these folks met regularly, worked together, and headed task forces together to investigate the Russian mob. And Simpson and Steele, the owner of Fusion and the author of the Dossier, or the number 4 guy at the Justice Department, his wife, Nellie Orr, Andrew McCabe, who is deputy director of the FBI, were all working together in trying to investigate the Russian mob. Then, when Trump ran for president, they saw that their efforts were endangered because they worried that Trump would sabotage them because they worried that he was too close to the Russians. So they got together and brought in the Clinton campaign to fund their efforts and decided to create this dossier, to create this myth that Trump was working with Putin in the Kremlin. And from the beginning, it was a myth. We've now discovered that Orr, the Associate Attorney General, the number 4 person in the entire Justice Department, met with Simpson and Steele. Steele, the Dossier author before the election, Simpson, the head of Fusion, after the election, and did not disclose the meetings, and he's been busted down to a relatively low level at the FBI. We've also discovered that his wife, Nellie, was a full-time employee of Fusion GPS as it was cooking up the negative research on the Dossier. So he and his wife were knee-deep in this. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. The fact is that the collusion among these agencies was deep and ongoing and institutional. The FBI and the Justice Department and Fusion worked closely together to investigate the Russian mob, to dig up negative information on Russian intelligence, and eventually to pin the idea of collaboration on Donald Trump. This was not an arm's-length relationship. This was an intimate, ongoing collaboration of people who worked side by side trying to expose and attack the Russian mob. And when they saw Trump on the horizon, they rallied and decided it was time to bring him down before he could become president of the United States. Hence, the Dossier. The nature of this collaboration, its length of time, its institutional basis, and its cover-up from official investigators raises a number of vital questions. First, what are the circumstances in which the FBI offered to pay Steele $50,000 to do the work? This was in the middle of a presidential campaign, and you have the FBI offering tax money to a negative researcher to dig up dirt on one of the 2 candidates. 2. What went on at the 2 meetings between Orr and Simpson and Steele, the one with Steele before the election and the one with Simpson after the election? At the one before the election was the meeting to pay Steele the $50,000 to flesh out the dossier. At the meeting after the election was the purpose of the meeting to coordinate efforts to get this dossier out, and conceivably for the FBI and the Justice Department to give Simpson information that then became included in the final dossier that was issued about 10 days after the 2 of them met. Did the FBI initiate this information and pass it on to Simpson to get it embedded in the dossier? In reviewing the dossier, is the FBI and the DOJ really reviewing their own work, their own lies, their own fabrications? Congressman Jim Jordan from Texas has it absolutely right. There was collusion, but the collusion that needs to be investigated was between or among the Department of Justice, the FBI, Fusion, GPS, and the Clinton campaign. And we need to understand how that relationship set America on an investigative wild goose chase to try to nail down collusion between Trump and Moscow that never, in fact, happened. Remember that Steele has sworn under oath in a defamation lawsuit that was brought by one of the people he libeled in the dossier, that much of the material in his dossier came from third-party sources who he would not identify, which he said was unsolicited. Could it well be that the dossier was simply a parrot for the information the FBI wanted to get out? And could it be that the Hillary campaign hired Steele and Simpson because they knew of their close relationship with the FBI and that it would be better for the FBI to get this material out through a former British agent? Now, there's even a larger question, which is that the entire investigation of Donald Trump, the effort to wiretap him, the successful FISA warrant to wiretap Carter Page, who they tried to implicate in this investigation, was based on FISA warrants that were obtained based on the dossier. So you have the FBI and the DOJ working with Fusion to concoct disinformation and then submitting that disinformation to the FISA board in order to get a warrant to wiretap Donald Trump and his campaign and transition staff to try to build a case out of nothing. That's what's going on. Thanks for watching.